Hi guys, welcome to today's session. We're going to be carrying on with this drawing that we started last week, which was the first sort of time that we spent with it. And we're still going to be trying to build up the texture, so that's one of the primary things that we're focused on. I'm also going to start to try to add a bit more depth into the tone. So I've got some carbon pencils, so they go a lot darker, and I've also got some my sanding block with a bit of charcoal dust on it, and a few brushes, various size brushes, because we're going to start trying to build the tone in, kind of almost grey everything out, and then we're going to erase back into it. We might be over painting and that sort of thing. So it's going to be lots of different techniques involved in this piece, and it's going to be pretty experimental as well. So one of the first things I want to do is just get my my carbon pencil, start kind of working over those shapes that we established last week. Going a bit heavier over them, so you can see the carbon pencil goes a little bit darker. I'm thinking a little bit about where these black tones go a bit lighter, because maybe they get some reflections or that sort of thing. And I also just want to take my eraser and take out a couple of notes for where we've got a reflection on the glass. Because if I go over with carbon pencil on these reflections too heavily, I probably won't be able to quite erase them back to a sort of pure white of the paper. I can paint over them though. We've got a bit of flexibility with this piece because we're using so many different materials. So I'm using the pencil like a bit of a drawing tool at the moment. The eraser like a drawing tool. Because a lot of this is just going to be kind of working backwards and forwards with these tools. Yes, that's a bit better. So where I know it's going to go super dark, I'm going to kind of really hammer it home. I'm just using the brush now to kind of smooth things out, because we're going to end up with a sort of almost painterly effect with this charcoal. That's what we're going for ultimately. You'll tend to find this kind of smudging will blur everything out a bit, add tone everywhere, but you'll still have the kind of skeleton of that drawing that we produced last week underneath. That's what we'll carry on working over the top of. I'm also just going to grab some of my bead charcoal, my regular bead charcoal. Because I want to use a combination of this carbon and standard charcoal. I'm just going to rearrange those little highlights. I lost them a bit in the brushing, so you'll find you'll have to kind of go back and forth a lot with this kind of piece, which is normal. So it's a lot of essentially like subtraction and addition. So we're removing and we're adding tone until we kind of settle on a texture and a form that we like. So where this cork is popping up, I just want to lighten it off a little bit from that tone. So there I'm subtracting a bit from the kind of average tone that developed when I smudged. I might go a little bit too light and then I'll just have to take it back again, but that's our general approach. That's what we're doing technique wise. You can see that starts to kind of bring together this bottle shape. I'm going to try to keep using all the tools at your disposal, work your way back and forth between them in this sort of way. So the glass, I'm primarily focusing on the highlights and some of the darker tones. Generally, they pretty much come together a form like that. You can get that sort of stuff in. So you can see they're starting to feel a lot more fleshed out now, these bits of glass. So I'm going to sort of work my way across, as this is how I've started. I'm not going to make it all the way across, just going to be kind of like a normal session length, so we'll see how far we get. So we need to go pretty dark on this shadow side of the ham. It's starting to get easier to kind of judge tones because everything's pushed a bit darker. Generally we're getting everything's starting to get closer to what its actual tone will be ultimately, which makes it generally easier to judge tones. So going back to painting a bit again, and then I'm going to erase, so back to reduction or, subtraction rather than adding. So you're kind of always moving between adding tone and removing tone. You can add tone and remove tone in different ways. You can remove tone with your brush, with the eraser, and you can add tone in different ways as well. You can add tone with the brush if you use dust. You can use different types of charcoal. So we've got compressed charcoal that we used. We used the regular charcoal last week. We used regular charcoal this week. And we're just using all these different methods, just sort of gradually work our way towards something that feels more like our subject, starts to capture the subject better. not going to work too much longer today. We're kind of nearing the end of this session. We've got kind of this left-hand side to block in. I might just kind of roughly redevelop some of these tones, this kind of silver band, a little bit darker. Things in here don't go quite as dark as what we've just been working on. Apart from this knife blade goes quite dark. Bit of a shadow on the table, but again, that's not super dark. I mean, none of these shadows in the front of the picture are as dark as those shadows in the back. So we always want to kind of bear that in mind as we're doing this stuff. Yeah, so I think about there's a good spot to stop for today. Next week we'll just be carrying on with the same thing, trying to develop the left-hand side of the image. But you can see it's all starting to come together fairly nicely. And then we can just sort of, beyond that point, we'll just keep refining into it, keep kind of pushing tones back. We're going to be able to paint over it a little bit as well, all sorts of stuff, so should be quite fun. But yeah, that's it for today. As always, you can follow us on YouTube to watch these and other videos. If you want tuition or support from myself and other tutors, expert tutors, you can follow the link through to the website and sign up to OCAD Studio. But yeah, that's it, and I'll see you guys soon.